emerge as an artist from a very different background. And I wondered if you could start by letting us know what it means to be an artist that resists labels.
Well, it's a great question. But first, just want to say thank you to everyone for coming today. I see a lot of familiar faces, some family, friends, some people I haven't seen for many years, so very grateful that you guys came through. Thank you to you, Aubrey, for putting this show together. I was telling her earlier, it's a very important show that without doubt will one day be historic, because I don't want to talk about this too much. I want to answer the questions, but you know, if you look at art history, it has a certain trajectory that aligns with the ascension of consciousness. You know, going from very realistic artworks that, you know, our eyes see human form and we're able to reflect down on canvas, to colorful emotional squares from Ralph. You know, that trajectory is without doubt a reflection of what's happening in society, and the show, I think, touches on that, where we are right now collectively, in a very important way. So to answer the question though about why it's important for me to resist labels, I mean, I'm sure you probably think like, oh, does it make me an artist because he doesn't want to be called a painter when he's also a dancer, because he makes music too, but it's actually a little bit more complex than that. And the simple answer, which isn't simple at all, is that it reinforces this concept of a multiplicity, of a separation of objects, of things within this universe. To have a label to say, this is wall, this is floor, and they're two separate things. And for sure, it's important to have a relativistic multiplicity, or else, you know, we wouldn't have been able to get out of the caves. But, you know, we're here in 2024. We have atomic theory, we have quantum theory. We're familiar with the unified quantum field, so we know that everything is interconnected in this cosmic dance. But we don't act that way. We act in very divisive ways. We're really killing each other. It's fucking terrible. But
Maybe we can bring it back to this piece.
well, so
The process of that.
this multiplicity. So growing up, I've always been interested in the human mind and medicine and the body. And over time, I've learned how to systematically remove my ego, such that I am not the painter, I am not the artist. I am Joe, and Joe sells the work. Joe has to deal with all the bullshit that comes from being a chaotic, crazy artist, you know?
Yeah.
But he's not the artist. When I enter into this egoless state, it is the zeitgeist that is moving my hand. And to help kind of explain this further, it's like, I mean, today was a windy day, right? So say you're walking down the street on a windy day, and there's a huge gust of wind that blows down a cone. We wouldn't say that the cone jumped. We would say that nature is being nature. But when I'm in this egoless state, instead of there being wind moving my hand, it is the raw cultural information, the ebb and flow of the zeitgeist that does abide by the laws of physics, that is moving my hand. And I like to say that, like, I didn't make these pieces, like, we all did. And that's the paradigm shift. That's that trajectory of consciousness. It's remembering what we always have been. And, you know, it sounds crazy to say these things in 2024, but in 100 years, it's going to be central to society. So I'm very grateful to be here in 2024 to be able to share my vision with all you. And yeah, just for instance, with this piece, you asked about this piece, so I had a pretty nice green painting on my easel, and I got this like compulsion to astral project and go visit with my friends. So I left my body, and I was just like walking down the street trying to find them. And some time went by, but when I came back into my body, this was done. I had zero recollection of making it, but in hindsight, in order for me to be in that space, I needed to create an object of the consciousness. So that's why this piece is called Pink Matter, because it literally was my body during that experience. So yeah, that's not how every piece is made, but I have zero control over my practice, and that's why my styles shift. Like when I was in Paris a couple months ago, I was making some really realistic work. That's because I was in the Louvre looking at really realistic work, you know. But then now it's just like you said, like the subconscious, like I spend all day just like reflecting my subconscious, and it can get crazy. So it's weird to be outside the studio, but yeah. Yeah, I'm a studio gremlin. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, I can answer.
How do you find yourself getting into this egoless state?
So it's well, sometimes I'm just thrown into it, and I don't even know it. And it can last a long time, and it's actually really it can be damaging because I in that state, you know, Joe isn't present, so the people that Joe knows, the artist doesn't know. You know, the artist is the room. It's as if the wall had arms, you know, and that can last sometimes weeks. But when I'm intentionally getting into it, it's a lot of breath work, a little bit of qigong, some intense music at like 140 BPM, and yeah. So like I'm not completely saying that the ego is all bad. You know, like I said, if it weren't for the ego, it would still be the case. But I think it's important to have this awareness of this oneness. You know, we say like do unto others as we would to ourselves, but it's I don't see it as like oh, I want to treat that person good so that way they can treat me good. It's like no, they are an extension of this what we all are. You know, which is all interconnected. So I think my practice and my vision is to help people to have that awareness of the oneness.
We talked earlier about the transition between the two styles.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe you'd like to elaborate about that.
Yeah, for sure. So this was made in 2022, and this was made March, like a couple months ago, so in 2024. And at this point, I was dealing with a style that I come to call American Futurism, that is inspired by Italian Futurism. You know, I'm half Italian, half Dominican, so it's like I've always been surrounded by Italian culture and Italian futurism specifically. So it's inspired by that futuristic movement that, in my opinion, like perfectly mirrors, you know, the laws of nature. But it has that, I say American future, and it has that American grit to it. The top, so like it's got that boom, boom, boom to it, you know. So that was that time, but then this is like post my Europe exploration. Back in November, and since then I've only been working in oil, and I've gotten more understanding of my spirit body and how that transpires into the creation of work. And you know, these works, shout out to Aubrey's curation, these works go great together. And I think they definitely encapsulate, I have several collectors in the room right now, I think they definitely encapsulate my practice. Between these two, probably like 70% of my practice. But my new stuff is like total spirit body. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, this is a great story between the two.
Appreciate that, yeah.
Unless I'm mistaken, I think you have a background in robotics.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you use what you know to inform your work, especially like on this style.
Yeah.
Like whether you use what you know about robotics to like help you to do it, or you deliberately do it like against what you know.
Yeah.
Right.
So with the robotics, aside from like the like perspective shift that came with all the travel, because I was on the plane like several times a week, bringing the robots to crazy places like Tokyo or Australia. The thing that really stuck with me and has, I think, informed a lot of my practice is that with the robot, I saw something happen thousands of times where a person who's never used a robot before walks up to it and they tap the top of its head, and then suddenly it starts following them. You're like, oh, this is crazy, and they move around, it's following them. But they change how they move in order for the robot to behave in a certain way. And in doing that, it sounds like silly, but in doing that, what they're really doing is expanding their object of consciousness beyond their body. Like, oh, I can't walk from here, like a sharp corner, I need to take a wide corner so that the robot can move. And in effect, their mind is in something that's outside their body. And experiencing that firsthand, I was like, oh, what does it mean to be human, and where am I? What am I? Am I in here? Am I this? You know, this is just a conduit for source. So the robotics, and aside from that, I also got to visualize the math that's in between all of us. You know, like the robot needs to find a way to navigate, and just like seeing how it moves, I began to understand how it works from inside out. And I think just like building that that language of expression within my spirit, it shows in the work. Like the work is nature, you know, because of that. That's how I describe it.
Can I follow up on that one?
Yeah.
So, I mean, referencing something from my collection, Bot 34.
Yeah.
I've had many conversations around this, and sorry to do this. So one of the pictures that I have from Joe, I would have argued that there were robotic influences in it if I didn't. So I wanted to ask, you know, the source for that one specifically, is there anything? Because I felt when I looked at that, and I've had so many people come to the same thing standing in front of it, they felt like you were drawing from all beings, regardless of where they got their life from, where they drew their source from.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, my portraits, which I seem to be doing less and less of as time goes on, they like I said with this, they become the object of my consciousness, because Joe, ceases to exist, and it needs, the spirit needs a physical endpoint, you know. So I create that in the piece. And sometimes I feel a little more robotic than others. Sometimes I feel more alien, and it shows in the work, you know. Like the new work, if you follow me, is very, I guess you could say all over the place, but it's very spirit body oriented. Like, I'm not in my body, you know. So it's like showing the work, and it's, you know, everything.
Yeah, I feel that.
Anyone else? I can answer any questions.
I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
Again, with this like style, in the other paintings that you do, I noticed that they all kind of look like faces.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if is it just me, or is it something that maybe you start off with, or like.
So, yeah, just to like reiterate, like I have zero control over the practice. So, like I'm never trying to make a portrait or a face, or I'm never trying at all. If anything, you know, like at the core of my practice is my research in this interconnectedness, in this oneness. And I like to say I'm not a painter, I'm not an artist, I'm a scientist, and my artwork is a byproduct of that research. You know, the research is happening in my mind, and you know, one day I'll definitely be writing books about these. I've already started. These concepts, they are because of what happened in my mind through the art. You know, the art is a very nice byproduct, and I'm very grateful for it because it sustains this body. But yeah, I'm never trying to make a face. And I was actually at a collector's house last night, and then I'm like, oh, the face in this piece is crazy. I was like, oh, I've never even seen a face in this piece. Because when I was working on that piece, it was in a corner of my studio that for some reason if I put a canvas there, I could never stand in front of it. I only worked on it in passing. So I would be working on another piece and then boom, grab pastel, mark. Like 2 weeks would go by, I wouldn't touch it. And another week, mark, and those across a month, I made an eye and a mouth, you know. But I wasn't even looking at it. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just moving. And that's how we were made, you know. It's fractals. It's infinite. It's this infinite matrix of the spirit realm becoming physical. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't developed the language for it yet. Yes.
Yeah, Professor, we got here a little bit late, so can you reintroduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Joe Taveras. I am a mixed media artist and roboticist technologist. I'm very grateful to be here. These are my 2 words.
Thank you guys. I want to say some
If anyone has any more questions from find me. I'll be right here. Yep. Thank you.